Ooh, holy chokes. My girlfriend still smokes cigarettes. This is the Fight Guy. I'm your host, Guy Pert. Goodness gracious, we had a fucking loaded card, UFC 314. It was amazing from start to finish, really. So that's why this video, it's going to be a special video. I'm going to give you my top 5 moments from the entire card. All right, then we're going to hit the bingo card, and we're going to go over my 5 bets and how they did. I might run through the fights really quickly, give you a quick breakdown. Maybe I'll do a more detailed video. I want to keep this one short and sweet, as short as I possibly can, starting with the fifth. The fifth top moment from UFC 314 for me was Chase Hooper's style besting Jim Miller for 3 rounds. I know he was a minus 900 favorite. He was a heavy favorite to win this fight. We all knew he was going to win this fight. My prediction, I thought he was going to finish Jim Miller. There's a couple times where he got close, as you see here. We call this truck position at 10 Planet. This is some no-gi jiu-jitsu labels, but there's a calf slicer, banana split you could run from this position, a couple other submissions. Chase was attacking the calf slicer here, as you could see, pushing against his own foot at the knee, twerking on the calf. I thought that this was a great fight. Jim Miller looked better than I thought he would look. He's a little bit more durable. He hung in there for 15 minutes against a young stud like Chase Hooper. Give Chase Hooper somebody ranked by the end of the year. Maybe not his next fight, but surely if he wins that, his fight after. Jim Miller, if he wants to do a couple more fights, I don't know. He hasn't said if he was just going to do one more. I haven't heard from him after this fight yet. Maybe he did an interview. I just didn't get the chance to view it yet. We'll see what's next for Jim Miller. Don't give him tough, young studs like Chase Hooper moving forward. The man deserves a little more respect than that. Give him other veterans. Let him ride out this lengthy, very impressive, long career of his. We move on to my 4th top moment from the entire card, UFC 314, and that's got to be Dan 50K Ige, proving doubters wrong, including myself. All right, I didn't think Ige was going to get his ass whooped for 15 minutes. All right, I thought that if the fight would go to a decision, Sean Woodson would win, which it was looking that way. All right, he was doing pretty good on the numbers. All right, if you're looking at the numbers, Sean Woodson was doing pretty good that fight. But if that fight ended prematurely, I knew it was going to be Dan Ige to get the knockout. You might have seen my YouTube short. Maybe you found my channel from it. It did all right, but I think that Dan Ige, if he's going to win this fight, I think he's going to knock Sean Woodson out. Dan Ige with the impressive knockout over Sean Woodson, who's never been knocked out before, was 13-1 going into this fight, only loss being a submission. Dan Ige mixed the takedown threat like I said he would. All right, I thought he would have a tougher time getting in there, but Ige would get in there and he would get busy with work, get busy with punches when he got in the pocket, threatened a takedown attempt, and ultimately, got what some was saying is an early stoppage. And listen, I picked Sean Woodson, all right? So, of course, naturally, I would be, rooting for him to win that fight. But even I, who leaned with Sean Woodson, I don't say that was an early stoppage, all right? You're going to have good stoppages, you're going to have bad stoppages, and you're going to have perfect stoppages. We don't get a lot of perfect stoppages, but that wasn't a bad stoppage, all right? That was a good stoppage. It could have went a little bit longer, but we move on to the 3rd best moment on the entire card, and that is going to be Dominic Reyes. Still having it. As you can see here, I added a little statistic, but in the COVID years, 2020 to 2022, Dominic Reyes was 0-4, with 3 of those losses being knockout losses. Since 2024, since his hiatus, Dominic Reyes, 3-0, all knockout wins. Last underdog to win on the entire card, that is true. It was a favorite, mainly favorites card. I think 11 of the 13 favorites won. Guys' logic stands on fighters taking time off. Whenever you take more than a year and a half off, and if there's an injury involved, 9 times out of 10, and I think I've said this before, 99 times out of 100, I'm going to go with the other fighter, especially when it's somebody like Dominic Reyes. All right, I'm never going to count this guy out unless there's an injury or something like that. But he says he's felt great going into his last couple fight camps. He feels great now. Didn't take hardly any damage this fight. Knocked out Krylov in the first round. You don't go with fighters taking more than a year and a half off, and it's been over 2 years since we've seen Krylov. So Dominic Reyes via KO, which was one of my bets, did fantastic. Congratulations if you followed that. I know some of you watching definitely did. But we move on to the second best moment on the entire card. That's going to be Gene Silva beating Bryce Mitchell at his own game, sneaking a ninja choke here. You could see that is a ninja choke indeed at the end of round 2 with a minute to spare. Now, I did go with Bryce Mitchell here. I thought his grappling would be overwhelming, which it could have been if applied differently. I think Bryce Mitchell knows what he's done wrong, but his takedowns were incredibly too predictable at the end of the first round. Even for the first half of the second round, Gene Silva could see every takedown coming after the first couple attempts, and he would try to add some pizzazz on his shots, some spinning elbows, some jumping punch. He was trying to knock Bryce Mitchell out in fashion on the feet. Bryce Mitchell, he was against the cage, going for a single leg, maybe transitioning to a double leg, left his head exposed. Gene Silva took advantage of that. He tried a guillotine a few minutes before this ninja choke, but ultimately, similar position. He ends up going with the ninja choke, and once that's in, there's no getting out of it. It's completely around the neck. There's no arm involved. Bryce Mitchell went to sleep. A lot of people saw Gene Silva knocking Bryce Mitchell out. All right, I even mentioned is that being a quite possible outcome. But Gene Silva submitting Bryce Mitchell, which a lot of people were saying Bryce Mitchell's grappling is some of the best in that division. I thought so myself. This puts that to question, which is why it's a top 2 moment. But before we move on to my top moment on the entire card, I got to give my honorable mention or two, and that is going to be Yair via decision against Pitbull. All right, I don't think that was impressive enough to be the top moment of the entire card. There was a lot of interesting moments this entire card. Yair winning a decision against Pitbull, making his UFC debut, just didn't do it for me. Congratulations to Yair. I hope he fights Diego Lopes in September. He says he doesn't want to. He wants to push that beef aside a little bit longer. Too bad you're not the champion. You don't get to make the calls. You don't get to say, oh, why doesn't the champion come fight me in my hometown when he's already beaten me before? My home country, rather. You don't get to make those calls yet, especially when you get a decision win over whoever it is making their UFC debut. I'm sorry, Yair. I did think he was going to get the knockout, but I did officially go with Yair to win via decision. And Volk winning via decision. Look, I love Volk. I wanted him to win. I wanted him to get that belt back. It feels great. I love Diego too, so it was like watching two of my sons go at it, but everybody has a favorite son. And that was Volkanovski. So it was almost a little bit emotional. It felt really good to see Volkanovski back, and it looked like the old Volk. He ate a couple hard shots. Some people had, there was a couple moments where we thought this could be it for Volkanovski, but he ate the shots, and he gave 3 or 4 back for every one landed. So Volkanovski winning via decision. It was good to get the belt back, but a finish over Diego Lopes just would have been insanely impressive. It would have put the entire division in shock, at hold, frozen in time with what just happened. But he didn't get the finish. Not that it wasn't impressive, but it wasn't the top moment on the card. There was a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of things to talk about every single fight, and that brings me to my number 1 top moment at UFC 314. And that's going to be on the prelims. For a lot of you guys that don't watch the prelim fights, this is a reason to watch the preliminary fights, because my number 1 top moment on the entire night is going to be Tresean Gore attacking Marc Goddard, taking frustrations out on good old Marky G. All right, I'll find the video for you guys here. Actually, I think I have it. Yes, we can see it right here. Fast forward a little bit. Tulio gets him down against the cage. Finish him. Marc Goddard stops the fight. You see Tresean right here try to go in on a single leg on Marc Goddard. I'll play it again. This is a big deal. Right there, he's fighting Marc Goddard. Marc knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. He knows how to defend sloppy single leg takedown attempts. If you're still watching this video, do me a huge favor and give it a like. It helps me a ton. I work very hard, hours and hours and hours every week getting these videos out for you guys, and I love doing it, so I'm not going to stop. You may have missed it. I just had a video, I will link it right here, with UFC featherweight Melquizael Costa, one of the only UFC fighters 2-0 to start 2025. Go check that out. It's one of my best videos yet. I will have more fighter interviews in the future, breakdowns every single week for upcoming cards, and recaps for cards that just happened every single week. So subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and like this video. I would really appreciate it. Let's get back to the breakdowns right now. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this fight specifically. Nothing against Nora Cornolle, but Haley Cowan, before this fight, she hadn't been in the octagon in just about 2 years, like I'd mentioned previously. I'm not a big fan of people that take a lot of time off, and then she comes in, she loses via submission. She needs to be cut from the UFC. Thanks for trying. Nora Cornolle, another finish. I believe she's finished 8 of her 9 wins. So congratulations to her. It was an easy submission for her. Want to move on to a better fight. Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. This was a scrap. I mean, Tresean Gore just seemed a little bit behind Tulio for the entire first round. Tulio just looking more technically sound than Gore. Gore just unloads shots. When he does, most shots miss, but I'll be damned, he puts power behind those shots. 10-9, Tulio going into the second round. Gore kicked in the nads by Tulio. Takes a few seconds. He's a tough guy. He just wanted to get right back to the action. Tulio just, again, looking a little bit more ahead on the feet. Gore's tough, but he's not forward tough. Marco Tulio gets the victory by punches. As you saw just a moment ago, Gore then tried to fight Mark Goddard, so there's no question about that stoppage. Beautiful knockout by Marco Tulio. We move on to the next fight. This was a great fight. I'd say this was the closest fight on the entire card. Sumaderaji versus Mitch Raposo. This was a fight, I'd pull up the tweet on Twitter, but it's just not that important. I mentioned at the end of round 3, I said, now this is going to be a fight where we get to see if judges really score based on damage or just control time where no ground and pound, no damage of whatsoever, or capitalization of position is made. And the judges did good. It was a split decision. I would have liked to see a unanimous 29-28. But we got a split decision, 29-28 win for Sumaderaji. Mitch is just too reliant on his wrestling. He was trying to force his wrestling a lot, and Sumaderaji, he caved early on in the fight, gave up a couple minutes of control time round 1, and then the rest, like the other minute through the next 2 rounds. He was really smart on Mitch's takedowns for the rest of the fight after the first round. Sumaderaji cut Raposo's nose at the end of the second round, and then he really started to pile on him in the third. I thought, this was a great fight. It was really competitive. Even though it didn't get the finish, it was a great fight on the card. Sumaderaji outlanding Mitch by over 65 strikes, just about 65 strikes. We move on. All right, and I do want to say we're 3-0 on the card. They're all favorites, but Nora, Marco, Sumaderaji, we're 3-0 going into this fight, which nailed perfectly. Oleksiejczuk versus Cedric Dumas. We said that Mikal would get the knockout, which he did. He was a slight favorite. He was like a -190 before the fight. It was pretty even odds. As you see here, Cedric landed 3 total shots. It was interesting. I didn't know this. Oleksiejczuk was training with the Fight Nerds. We saw him get a pair of the glasses after he got the round 1 knockout, but he looked absolutely amazing, landing over 30 more significant strikes to Cedric's 3 strikes. Nothing much else to say about this fight. That's all I have written down was he was training with the Fight Nerds, which I find interesting, but don't sleep on Mikal. Oleksiejczuk is a good middleweight fighter, all right? We move on. First fight, regular prelims. Julian Erosa versus Darren Elkins. This was a beatdown. At the end of round 1, Julian Erosa gets it done. What do I have on this fight? Elkins looks really sloppy, unable to use the position advantages he got. He had a couple opportunities to capitalize on position, and he was just slow everywhere. He was slow on the feet. He was slow in what little grappling there was this fight, and you could just see Darren Elkins, 69 total strikes to Darren Elkins, or Julian Erosa's 69 significant strikes to Darren Elkins' 18. Excuse me, I think I had a little brain fart there, but yeah, Elkins just got torched this entire fight. He looked a little slower. He looked a little sloppier. He looked like what I would expect Jim Miller to have looked like against Chase Hooper, which we're going to move on to that fight. Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller. Chase Hooper getting an amazing decision. I thought it was a 30-27 fight. Maybe give Jim Miller the first round. I see a couple judges did do that, 29-28. But it was a great fight, man. Jim Miller held in there better than I thought he was. We'll start with the first round. 3 sub-attempts in the first round by Chase Hooper. Jim had his moments early in round 1. Round 2, a back take to start off the round. The same way Chase Hooper ended round 1, he starts in round 2. Does nasty damage, ends up moving to that calf slicer, which you saw in my video just a few minutes ago to end round 2. And then round 3, nothing very, very different. Same old song and dance. Chase Hooper using position to deal more damage. Jim Miller had his moments on the feet that fight, mostly in the first round, but you could see here, I mean, Chase Hooper outstruck him 3-1 and had over 8 minutes more control time than Jim Miller. It was a great fight. Jim Miller hung in there. I thought he was going to get finished. I really did. For him to hang in there with a young guy like Chase Hooper, it does say a lot about Jim Miller. Just not that you have to give him easier matchups. Just don't give him younger, hot contenders like Chase Hooper, who's probably going to fight his way into the rankings this year. Move on to the next fight. Xiaonan versus Verna Jandiroba. This was a great fight. Jandiroba, dominant grappling. It's overwhelming. It's very hard to keep up with. I'm not sure if she fought. I'm going to take a little hiatus here. Rodriguez, okay. I would really like her to fight who Wei Xiaoling fought last. But yeah, no, back to this fight. Verna, she looked absolutely amazing with the grappling. It was just way too much for Jan to keep up with. You could see 10 minutes pretty much exactly of control time. Round 2, same thing as round 1, just a little bit more grappling. It's overwhelming. It's too much to keep up with. Round 3, Verna, couple takedown attempts, settled. She was a little bit more calm, less, aggressive, knowing that she certainly won the first 2 rounds. And she ends up, getting some control time, some more damage in the third round. It wasn't that boring of a fight. It was a pretty good fight. It was just, Jan had no answers for the grappling, especially after the first round. It just really started to pile on to her. Great win for Verna. Excited to see who she gets next. We move on to the last preliminary fight. One of the better fights on the card. Dan Ige versus Sean the Grasshopper Woodson. Round 1, Sean had a pretty effective jab. When he entered the pocket, Ige tended to land a lot more. Outlanded 2-1, but his nose was bloody. Round 2, Woodson takedown defense held up, staying at range pretty decently. It was a really close fight. And then in the third, I even want to say I had Sean Woodson up the first 2 rounds. They were closer rounds, but he was doing a really good job just keeping distance and holding up the takedown attempts from Dan Ige. A minute into round 3, Dan Ige wobbles Sean Woodson, and then I'm sure all of you have seen the clip, he piles on to Sean Woodson. They stopped the fight. A lot of people say it was a little bit early. I'm not going to say that was a terrible stoppage, all right? It's fighters, defending themselves and, trying to stay in the fight. He was just going in on a single leg and eating a lot of shots, wasn't really progressing on the position. They could have given him, another 2 or 3 seconds, another 5 to 10 blows to the head before you stopped it. He probably would have been in the same spot. A takedown against Dan Ige is very tough to get, especially when your lights are going out. Great. It was a good stoppage. I won't say a perfect stoppage. This one was the first fight we got wrong, and it was the last fight on the prelims. But I even did say in my video, if this fight did not go the distance, it would certainly be a Dan Ige knockout. So kind of called it, but I did go with Woodson, so I'll eat that one like a man. We move on to the main card. Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. This was one of my bets. I said Dominic Reyes via knockout. I think it was a plus 375. It paid very good. I met some friends, some new fans, I believe, down at the Lake Charles LaBerge Casino on Saturday. That's where we watched the fights. I was taking notes in public. We had some guys, see I was up to no good. They followed me on a couple picks, and they went with Dominic Reyes via knockout. So shout out to those boys. If you're watching, you're welcome. This was a great pick for me. It was easy to call. I don't have a lot of notes in this one because the fight didn't go that long. But like I said, fighters, especially coming off an injury, more than a 2+ year layoff, more than a year and a half layoff is enough for me. 18 months, I've seen enough, but 25 months since you've last stepped in the octagon. Dominic Reyes is starting to look more and more like his old self, and especially after this fight, This solidifies his knockout streak to 3-0 since 2024, coming back from his COVID hiatus. Shout out to Dominic Reyes, man. I'd like to see him fight Carlos Ulberg next. Give him Carlos Ulberg. Put that... Dominic Reyes, he's not injured. He's feeling like he's in the best shape of his entire career. Don't give him a hurt Jan Blankovic. Give him Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg. Book it. I want to see it this summer. We move on to the next fight. This one I did get wrong. I thought Bryce Mitchell was going to win. Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. It was a great fight while it lasted. Bryce Mitchell's game plan started to fall apart early in this fight. Mitchell landed good strikes in the first round. He had a decent guillotine attempt in round 1. But round 2, Bryce's takedown attempts are becoming way too predictable. This is what I had written down. I mean, you could tell when Bryce was going in for a shot. It was just slow. It was sloppy. It wasn't the best timed entries. And Gene Silva was trying to put him down for every one of these. If you go and rewatch the fight, I still need to rewatch these. But if you go back and rewatch this fight, you're going to notice what I'm talking about. Gene Silva spinning elbows, flying punches, jumping knees. He's trying to knock Bryce Mitchell out after each one of these badly timed takedown attempts. Nobody saw this coming. Gene Silva finishing Bryce via submission. A lot of people saying he was going to knock Bryce Mitchell out, but Gene Silva to pull off a ninja choke at the end of round 2 was very, very impressive, especially when you had a lot of critics, such as myself, saying Gene Silva's grappling was not 100% sound to hang in the featherweight division. Is Bryce Mitchell's grappling not as good as we thought it was? Is Gene Silva just a whole nother animal? We will see his next fight. Gene Silva's called out Volkanovski even. I don't know. Give him a top 5 guy. Maybe give him Yair. Maybe give him Diego, Battle of Brazil. I don't know. Gene Silva, the world is his. Very impressive performance. We had that one wrong. It was the only other one we missed on the card. We move on to the next fight, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. This was a great fight. Yair was winning every round, as you see here, 30-27. He was just way more ahead on the exchanges. Both guys had a little bit of control time, but it was mostly, them standing it out on the feet. Yair just looks pissed off, man, when he's fighting. He looks like, I don't know, like a dog after you stepped on its paw. He just looks like he's about to snap at you. I can't quite explain it. It's just that Mexican fighting spirit he has. It's why I love him. Great win for Yair Rodriguez. I did think he was going to knock Patricio out. I think that was one of my bets. He did not knock Patricio out, but I also did just go with Yair to win that fight via decision, which did pretty good. We move on to the next fight. Well, before we move on, Yair needs to fight Diego Lopes. I know the MMA Guru has said this. I'm saying it. I'm not going to stop saying it no matter what happens in the featherweight division in the coming months. Yair versus Diego Lopes in September. Guadalajara, Mexico. Main event, really. There's real beef there that's going to sell. I mean, we all saw what happened at the press conference. It would be fireworks. Book that fight, man. We'll wait 5 months down the road to see it. Next fight, co-main event of the evening. This one was a shocker to a lot of people, and that's going to be Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. I thought, I did go with Paddy Pimblett. That was my official decision. One of my bets, I did hedge with Michael Chandler getting the knockout. I want to address something I said. If this fight did not go the distance, it would be because Michael Chandler knocked out Paddy Pimblett. And boy, I could not have been any more wrong about that. Paddy Pimblett made Michael Chandler look worse than anybody that has ever beaten Michael Chandler in the UFC. Pimblett is getting better every fight, man. He's just getting better each and every single fight. He makes the adjustments. A lot of people criticize him, especially about his diet. He balloons up and, they say he's not training as hard. That's all bullshit, man. Paddy is legit. He's got fans. He's got momentum. He's won every fight in the UFC. Just made Michael Chandler look like just a dad that's in good shape. That's all I had to say about Michael Chandler after this fight. Michael Chandler isn't even a good fighter. He's just a dad in really good shape, man. Michael Chandler, he said in his pre-fight video that, man, I don't really even train much technique in fight camp. He's focused on strength training and the weight cut and his diet, which are all very important things. But I'm thinking, man, wait, what? You don't try to learn new technique at all? What do you mean you don't try to not live at the gym? Well, it shows, brother. It shows because Paddy Pimblett just knocked your ass out in the third round. Great win for Paddy Pimblett. Round by round breakdown for this fight. First round, Paddy had some great leg kicks. You'll go back, you'll rewatch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Chandler lands, takedown, control, damages Paddy for a minute and 30 seconds in the first round. Nothing crazy. I still gave it to Paddy. Round two, Paddy looks better than he ever looked. He cut Mike in round two. Chandler started to, come savvy to some of Paddy's leg kicks. Paddy just went to the body. He still found success with the kicks. We go into round three. He put Chandler down bad and just beat the shit out of him. He hurt him bad with a knee, which I believe cut Chandler's left side of Chandler's cheek. And then after that, he smelled blood in the water, and he just tried to finish Chandler, chased him all the way across that 30-foot octagon, or whatever the diameter is, threw a hard body kick, another kick, some punches, and ultimately took Chandler down and just finished him via TKO elbows, you could see here. Chandler looked, I'll add the picture in here. There was a camera angle, which I'm sure is a meme now. If it isn't, it's going to be a meme by the end of this week. Chandler looked like he was in a real-life horror movie, and he got caught by the serial killer who was an elbow. He was looking up, just face bloodied. It was a disastrous photo. A lot of people, if they don't watch the UFC because they say, oh, the sport can get nasty, it gets too bloody. That's a perfect reason why people don't watch it. For that reason, I love that stuff. I'll put the picture on here. Very impressive win for Paddy Pimblett. We move on to the last fight on the card. Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. This was a great fight. I love both guys a lot. It's no secret, Alexander Volkanovski has won this fight. It was pretty overwhelmingly. Two judges had it 49-46, so that's what we're going with. First round, both guys unloading in the pocket. Volk, heavy knockdown at the end of the round one. It starting to look like the old Volk with his overwhelmingness. That's too much for fighters to handle. That's what I got from the first round. Second round, Diego getting hit harder and more often. Diego does drop Volk at the end of the second round with 10 seconds to spare. But again, for every shot or two that Diego Lopes lands, Volkanovski's landing 3 or 4 shots in return. And they look like they're just landing a little bit harder. I mean, both these guys took a beating this fight, but Volkanovski, even looking at the numbers, it tells the story. Every punch Diego would land, another 2 or 3 are coming right back at him. Volkanovski looked a lot like his old self. Round 3, we get careful exchanges from both sides the first half of the round. I had it 2-1 Volk. It was probably even 3-1 Volk. I was being safe. Going into the fourth round, Volk got hit really hard, but doubling the volume of Lopes every round. He could potentially even be up 4 after the fourth round. And, the 5, Volkanovski played a little bit slower. He knew he won that fight if he just made it the distance. He did get the more recent knockdown from Diego Lopes, so he was playing it safe. Diego Lopes was getting a little bit frustrated near the end of the fight, saying, come here, let's go to the center. But, Volkanovski would step in the pocket. He would exchange with Diego Lopes, and then he would get his distance. It was smart. It was different from the Lerone Murphy-Josh Emmett fight in some ways. He exchanged more than Lerone Murphy was willing to, but it was a great fight, man. It was an amazing card. Our bets did good. 2 out of 5 hit. But I got to get into the bingo card, man. You guys know the bingo card, which I will show here. I'll hide my camera for a moment. This is what we had going into Saturday. But we had a change here. Excuse me. As you can see at the top here, next to the Bruce Buffer announcing era, fighter attacks the referee. You guys remember from my top 1 moment from the entire night, fighter attacked the referee. Gore win at Mark Goddard. It was exciting stuff. It was an amazing card. But yeah, that was episode 26. Wanted to do a full breakdown for you guys. Bets did good. We went 11 for 13 on predictions. It was an amazing fight card altogether. And those were my top moments to remember from this card. I will see you guys later this week when we break down the next UFC fight night. But this is the Fight Guy. Thank you so much for watching.